I am Jacob Gabel.
I am Jacob Wurtz.
And this is the Untapped Podcast.
I freaking love that intro, dude. It's so sick.
We can put our own little spin on it every time, too. It's just kind of funny to me. Yeah.
So, what's up, guys? It's good to see you back. For those of you on video, yes, we are in a little bit of a different studio today.
Something like that.
We are just probably an episode or two that will be over here. But there's also some new podcast equipment on the table. You guys will see it in the clips if you aren't someone that likes to watch the podcast episodes. But we have a nice little fancy flag with our two logos on it, so that looks pretty sick. But what's going on, dude?
Dude, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for them to see this on the stories we put up there too.
Yeah, right.
But really exciting stuff we have going on right now, guys. A little bit of a more minimalistic setup we have going on right now, for sure, I'd say. And I'm kind of enjoying it, actually.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit more open, so to speak. So,
and it's just cool to be in a different environment,
of course,
even if it's only an episode or two.
It's like a creative inspiration in a way. It sounds kind of funny, but yeah.
I was literally telling you, earlier today, I was like, whenever I'm able to be in a different environment to do work, whether it's someone's house or, I don't know, a coffee shop or a hotel room or something like that, like I'm able to lock in, a lot better. Because I think just that new environment, you got new things to look at or not look at.
Yep.
The typical distractions that you might have in your own room, in your own house, are going to annoy you.
Yeah, you guys should have seen yesterday. I get about 8 to 10 texts from this man, and he's like, we're on a Google Podcast, we're on Amazon Music, and we just got a whole new website, we just took over the world, and it's like what am I doing right now? What's going on?
Giving him updates on even more equipment that we're waiting on too for podcasts.
Yeah. And so I was loving it. I was like, this man is balling right now. And of course, I'm at work, just sitting there like, really, like I'm missing out on all this,
working for someone else.
Yes, so exciting. But yeah, I mean, it was good, guys. Again, and this is kind of to show you guys too, is that we don't just sit around with this stuff.
Yeah, right.
We don't just mess around with this stuff. This isn't just some kind of game to us. It isn't a social podcast or whatever.
Mm-mm.
We've gotten requests like, hey, can I come on? And it's like, what value do you provide?
Exactly.
That's what we need
from
people. And that's why this thing is serious to us. This is our baby. This is also a great way to bring stuff to you guys on clips and whatnot, shorter digestible content.
Right.
And
yeah. And it's, you're exactly right. Like, this isn't just something we sat down and was like, it'd be fun to have a podcast. No, like, we're legitimately trying to do something with this and bring value to the listeners and the viewers and whatnot.
Definitely.
And, those numbers just continue to increase for us. And, it's pretty awesome. And, guys, we love that and love that support and everything so much. You really have no idea what it means, but
it's huge.
Anyway, guys, we are going to cover a hot topic today.
Something like that.
Or at least the media likes to portray it as a hot topic, but something that always seems to be relevant. Every few weeks, every few months, it that fire kind of gets stirred up a little bit more regarding this particular topic or particular amendment. And so if that doesn't give you the clue, today we are going to cover the Second Amendment, guys. We're going to cover the whole argument around the Second Amendment, what it actually says, what we think about it, and kind of how we move forward on this.
Absolutely.
We preach a lot about being solution-based, and guys, that's kind of what we want to do with this, as we try to on all the current event episodes that we cover. So, guys, just off the rip here, the Second Amendment in the Constitution is stated as a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
That last part, guys, let's go over that to start.
Yeah, the last 4 words there.
The last literal 4 words in the podcast here. So, the shall not be infringed, right? Shall not be infringed is probably the most, if not the most important 4 words in the Constitution.
Right.
Because it makes it pretty clear what the idea was with the Founding Fathers.
Right.
And what they had in mind with the Second Amendment. Now, this isn't some kind of like, I need to go get my guns because I need to go shoot them on the range or whatever.
Right.
The entire idea, so let's set the scene here.
And it's also not for deer hunting.
No,
and we'll get into that.
I don't know who. I've heard people say it to me, and I literally look them deadpan in the face, like, you're missing the entire point.
You don't need an AR to kill deer. You're exactly right.
Exactly right. That's not what it's for.
It's to defend myself.
Yeah, exactly. So let's set the scene here, guys. Let's set the entire idea and context of where 1776 and the Second Amendment came into play, right? So we had just defeated/dealt with a tyrannical government, correct? In Great Britain.
Yep.
And their empire. And the entire idea of having a well-regulated militia and giving the people the right to bear arms was to protect against a tyrannical government and the possibility of that becoming the possibility of that in the future.
Exactly.
Correct?
Yes.
So
yes.
Let's go over that and establish that real quick, because you got to understand the context. We had just gotten out of a war with somebody who had tried to tax us out of our minds, who would try to control everything we do just because we were colonies, and they didn't give us any sovereignty.
Right.
And we were like, you know what? How do we go again? How, as citizens, do we offset this in the future?
Yeah. Right.
Firearms, the same capabilities, mind you, as our military. That's the entire idea of a well-regulated militia and the right to bear arms and shall not be infringed.
Right.
So
right.
go ahead, Wurtz.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right, because as citizens, we need to have access to whatever our military does. Now, I don't need a tank necessarily. Like, I don't necessarily need
Can I afford one?
helicopters.
No.
Right. So that's not necessarily what I mean by those words, but the AR-15 argument is what always comes up. Well, it's a military-style weapon. Anyone who doesn't know about guns clearly doesn't know what they're saying by that, because the caliber, a 5.56 or a .223, the caliber that comes with an AR-15, is not a whole lot bigger than a .22, which is a very small round. Now, it is a bigger round. I'm not sitting here going to be an idiot and say that they're the exact same.
Sure.
However, it's not much bigger, and that's exactly what our military uses. They use a 5.56 round with the standard issue M4 that the military uses. Okay, that's what the majority of our soldiers use, and there's no reason I shouldn't be able to have access to that. Now, again, this is not just so I can go shoot a bunch of people in the face. That's obviously not the purpose of the Second Amendment. That's not what we are saying from our side of, or from our point of view, rather.
You shouldn't have to clarify that either. That's the sad part.
Yes.
You have to clarify this
exactly.
Right now.
And people see an AR-15 and they automatically think it's this like military, human destroying weapon, and it's like, just because it looks a certain way doesn't mean it's any different than another gun that shoots a 5.56 or a .223.
Correct.
Just because the other one looks like a deer rifle doesn't make it any less powerful than an AR-15.
Correct.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
As far as the caliber goes. So we need to be able to have access to those types of things. And I'm not saying it's got to be handed out or anything like that. If you can afford it, you should have access to it.
Yep.
You
should also receive the proper training for
exactly.
that. That's another thing we advocate for.
Yes.
Because you have the proper training, the chance of illegal use of it,
right?
Which, by the way, all the shootings, the mass shootings,
right.
are people that don't train with them correctly.
Right.
They don't train with them correctly. They have mental illness, etc., and they get access to them either illegally or just by some magical way of them popping up into their possession.
Well, and that's the thing too, guys. What most people, and honestly, I personally believe this, that background checks could be a little more in depth. So my dad, when he was a kid, his parents owned a Western auto shop, and it was kind of it was in a very small town, so that gives some context there. But they sold everything from car parts to guns. And when someone came in to buy a gun, there was a 3-day grace period where I buy the gun on Monday, I cannot receive the gun until Thursday. So there's a 3-day waiting period, because think about it, you get into an altercation with someone, you're all pissed off, and I'm going to go kill this person. I'm going to go buy a gun right now and go kill this person. We can go do that right now. It takes maybe a half hour to buy a gun right now.
Right, as long as your record's completely clean.
Exactly. An upstanding citizen, it takes about 30 to maybe 60 minutes total to buy a gun right now.
Right. It took me about an hour or so to buy guns.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Same thing.
If I go and buy a firearm, it takes me about hour and a half or so.
Yeah. Same thing for me when I've purchased mine. But back then, there was a 3-day waiting period to prevent that initial emotional anger that could be possible with someone trying to buy a gun.
Sure.
Stuff like that, I think, needs to be put back into place, because what the government tries to do when we're going to make background checks stronger. Well, what they're actually trying to do is just hide what they're really wanting to do with the guns, which is take them under something like background checks.
Right.
So
that was going to be like my devil's advocate point to it for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where reading the actual legislation that's being proposed is very key as voters.
Yep.
Because, like, we've talked about a legislation that was in play where it was labeled as a anti-child pornography. law or bill or whatever
it was a bill slash.
It was trying to become law.
Yeah,
yes.
It was technology. Basically, was supposedly aiming to ban
child pornography. So at the surface, it's like, wow, yes, we need to vote on this 100%. Right. Child pornography is one of the, if not the worst possible thing out there, especially on the internet. However, guys, what the fine print says is they're going to surveil everything you do on your phone, on your laptops, on your technology. Well, that doesn't sound so great, right?
Yep.
Because that sounds like they're spying on everything I do, good or bad. So that's where reading the actual legislation is so key in these things. They might label it as, we're going to introduce a 3-day grace period when you buy a firearm, or we're going to introduce, just more in-depth background checks into someone's mental health and, any crime potential that they've had in their past, or, whatever it might be. But then they hide under there in the fine print, we're actually outlawing AR-15s, or we're outlawing bump stocks.
We're doing red flag laws, etc. To basically pin you as a threat when you're not really.
Yes.
So I'm gonna show you guys something real quick about a differing opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought process with the background checks and 3-day grace period is that is a good in a utopian world. But the problem is with our government currently right now, I do not trust just a 3-day grace period, like you said, them to pass just a clear law saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only issue.
Yes.
So again, that's a different opinion, guys. I like that. I like the idea, but at the same time, for example, no NRA member has ever committed any type of mass shooting or any type of actual crime like that. Is that correct?
I honestly don't know.
That was the last time I read that statistic. And there is an all-time low rate of people that conceal and carry and people that carry firearms that commit crime. It's an extremely low amount. So that's my only caveat to what you said there, because I like the idea, because I get it, because we had somebody hypothetically emotional shooting next to us recently. You know where that is. Recently that happened. So I like what you're saying there. It's just that right now I don't think it's a possibility to add that in without them throwing in 5 other things behind the scenes.
And that's I'm in agreement there. So it's not even necessarily we have differing opinions there. It's just 100%. Our government is not going to do the right thing there and put a very clear legislation into place that says that.
Now, us as gun owners, we should be working with other gun owners to give those that are buying new ones training.
Yeah, exactly.
Anytime we've talked to somebody, like Wurtz and I can definitely advocate for us here. Anytime we've talked to somebody that is a new gun owner, we always say, go and get training. Go and understand your weapon. Go and shoot. Every time.
Yes.
Every time. Because that is a huge factor. Because if you understand your weapon and you're calm and you're collected with it, the emotional aspect to it, the crazy aspect to it, and you understand how much of a dangerous weapon it can be if used in the correct way, then you have a certain respect for the weapon.
I was just about to say, if you can gain respect for that, then it's not going to be your first response to an altercation.
Sure.
Because that's what
shouldn't be.
Yeah, right. So a lot of times when people get shot, like this situation that you were just referencing here locally, I assume you're talking about the bar that. Locally.
Correct.
So there was a murder-suicide at a bar, I don't know, a month and a half ago or so here locally.
There's a possibility of it being emotional.
Exactly. So in situations like that where it's just, a heated moment, in this case there's alcohol involved, a heated moment, emotional, a lot of people, their first response is, I'm just going to shoot you. That's what gives the Second Amendment and law-abiding citizens with guns like ourselves, like our families, like a lot of people around us, gives us a bad name. Because it's see, if you're carrying a gun, you're automatically going to shoot someone. No, I'm not.
Right, and how few of times does that happen compared to other crime that's from illegal weapons?
Yes, exactly.
That's a big factor there, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I'll just say this because it's on my mind. If, let's say our government, and I wouldn't put it past them, but let's say they go, we're going house to house and taking all guns. Well, one, a lot of the law enforcement and police are not going to enforce that.
Right.
They're going to go door to door, they weren't home. Yeah, except, we were eating dinner, but you just don't care. Because you know how ridiculous it would be. Also, logistically, that's just not possible.
There's over, 450 million guns, I think, legally?
It's something like that, yeah.
Somewhere around that number, yeah.
And that's legally. There's a lot of illegal weapons as well coming across the border from down south.
Their estimate is over 1 million.
Exactly,
guns a year.
Exactly. Yeah. But logistically, you would not be able to take every gun in this country from the citizens. And third, that's a really good way to get into Civil War 2.0.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
And cause some serious shit.
Yeah, some serious damage and harm and death. it just that's what would happen.
Yep.
Those three things would happen.
Yep.
You know, and the law enforcement guys, for the most part, they're going to be on our side. You know, there might be some outliers that see it a different way, and like that's fine to have that opinion. But most of the law enforcement and military guys, I would like to think, are going to be on our side on that.
I hope so.
You know,
I would say too, from those of you listening that might not have the exact same ideas or opinions as we do. I would say we're coming from a solution-based point. Like we said, we always talk about solution-based. Wurtz and I make a big point of that, and we come from a helpful place too. We don't come from we just want our guns just so we can go shoot them. We come from these actually can be a really good tool, not just against our government, which that's the main thing they were for. So that's already past the point. So that knocks the argument off right there. But again, this solution-based point, for example, I posted on my story probably a week or two ago now when the Uvalde school shooting happened. And it was a post that said there's 131,000, rough estimate, K through 12 schools in the United States.
Okay.
Now, this K through 12 school, 131,000 of them, there's also how many homeless veterans and veterans without jobs.
Yeah.
What we want to do is in those 131,000 schools is go vet, train, and make sure and arm a previous vet of our military that is, again, mentally stable. That's why I said vet.
Right. Because that's the key thing, too. There's a lot of soldiers and just past military guys that wouldn't be able to handle that type of a job. And we acknowledge and respect that as well, guys, here on this point. However, for the most part, the guys that would be capable, I would assume, would love to know that their job is defending children.
Absolutely.
They would absolutely be all over that.
Again, mentally checking for stability with these people.
Right. And that's where a sizable process of background checks and mental health checks and all that kind of stuff comes into play.
Well, I mean, it's a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I would assume you have like that kind of check at a job usually. Like they do a background check on you at every job you
especially one that involves carrying.
100%.
You know.
So that's a big factor, guys. Mentally stability checking and background checking these vets that come in. Now, so we get them to all 131,000 schools, one at each, at least, right? We pay them $75,000 a year. This is from Sean Whalen, by the way. I cannot hold credit for this post. We pay them $75,000 a year. That comes out to about $9.8 billion a year.
Wait, where's that money coming from, dude? Because we keep sending it to Ukraine.
Wait a second. Yeah, we're out of money apparently.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing, guys. We sent $40 billion to Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
So we sent $40 billion to Ukraine. I don't even think that's the total. Actually, last time I checked,
I'm sure it's
I think we
going
have
up.
more than that.
Yeah.
So, but we can't send $9.8 billion to have a solution for our children.
In-house, to our own country.
To our own country.
citizens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, here's another thing. So let's position off that. So there's our solution there for you guys. Here's another thing about firearms as well. One, most firearm deaths / accidents are caused by handguns. So it's not even AR-15 assault rifle styles. Assault rifle.
Yeah.
Again, in quotations.
Also, AR does not stand for assault rifle, for anyone that doesn't know that.
No.
It stands for Armalite Rifle.
Right. So...
not assault rifle.
Exactly.
Let's just clear that.
So, these military-style weapons, you keep talking about, do not account for a majority of the gun casualties of any sort. So, handguns do. But, take into account, too, that most of the gun casualties and gun, deaths, whatever you want to call them, gun incidents, come in the inner cities gang violence, and they also come in suicides. A good portion of them come in suicides.
Right.
Again, you can go on the FBI, check these statistics if you want me to. Go find them. Again, I'm saying majority here. I'm not giving you exact numbers because I'm not going to speak on the exact down to the one number on this, because I know suicides are the majority of them. Gang violence right after that, and handguns account for a lot of that.
Right. And that's just something that is not talked about at all in the media. And it's obviously on purpose because the media does not have the correct intentions, as we all know. But is gang-related violence. Like, let's talk about building up those inner cities. Chicago, St. Louis, Los Angeles, all of those cities. Like, let's talk about those issues because, guys, we have a post here pulled up from Instagram. Nearly 400 kids under the age of 16 have been shot in Chicago within the past year and a half. However, the media insists that the lives lost in school shootings matter most. Now, guys, school shootings, it's horrible.
Horrific.
It's sad. I mean, it's I don't have children, but I plan to someday, and I can't even imagine. Okay? So let's just get that right off the bat. We are not...
I can't imagine I'd be going in the school killing the guy
Yeah,
myself.
exactly. But the media doesn't talk about those 400 kids under the age of 16 in Chicago that have died in the past.
That's just in Chicago, by the way.
Literally just in Chicago. Let's talk about St. Louis, too.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, those are in St. Louis. We know how bad it is here.
Right. So, the fact that we don't even talk about trying to build up the inner cities, like legitimately working on that, because, what the Democrats try to do and the left side tries to do is promise certain things, like, oh, yeah, we're going to bring money, we're going to bring, good people and schools and build up the communities in the inner cities. That's great. Yes, let's do it. Psych, that money's actually just going to be for us.
Exactly. That's the problem. It is a corruption with it. Again, and we talked about it too, is like a lot of times the cities are left run. That's just the fact of the matter.
Right.
Most cities in the U.S., I don't know if there is right-run cities, like big cities, I mean, like over 500,000.
Not that I'm aware of anywhere.
There's most of the portions of those bigger cities over 500,000 people are Democrat-run.
Maybe Florida
right?
or Texas.
So,
maybe somewhere. But, honestly, I don't even know.
Exactly. That's the thing, too. But continue.
But what we really need to do is talk about, gang-related violence. And if we, are taking guns away from law-abiding citizens, we can't defend those inner cities like we need to. I mean, guys, think about it. Again, from this same post on Instagram, we defend our president with guns and with people that know how to use those guns correctly. We defend celebrities who, pay for private security and stuff like that with guns and with people who know how to handle them. We defend our banks, our courts, our judges with people with guns and who know how to use them. Jewelry stores, even sporting events, music festivals, big concerts and stuff like that. We put people in place with guns and how people who know how to use those guns correctly in place to protect the people within those zones. Here we are at schools, though. We have signs that just read, oh, this is a gun-free zone.
Yep.
Yeah, that sign is definitely just going to prevent a shooting, for sure.
That's a big factor, too. And it's like we have this idea that somehow if we utopian take away all the guns in our country, that somehow there won't be illegal guns that come in. We just talked about how over 1 million of them come over the border each year.
Right.
And so it's not realistic to think these mentally unstable people, these criminals, are going to be the ones that follow the laws. It's just not going to happen.
No, it's just not.
That's not a realistic thought, because the people that gun control that follow the laws, they're like, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll listen to that law. I won't buy a bump stock. I won't buy a magazine that carries 30 rounds or whatever.
Right.
The only people that listen to those, again, are the law-abiding citizens.
Right.
That's it. So it's not the ones who are committing the crimes. We say law-abiding for a reason. And it's just, we've talked about this for years with gun control. And the thing is, it's unreal because they continue to try to push this stuff when we just dealt with how much BS from them for the last 2 to 3 years now.
Right.
You can't tell me that what happened in Australia, how they were gassing citizens and whatnot during riots, and how they're locking them up in quarantine camps, whatever you want to call them.
We've heard the word camps before, I think.
Yeah, and you cannot actually believe that I'm as a firearm as a gun owner, or the rest of the population in the U.S. that owns firearms is realistically going to believe that the government means well with this. It just doesn't.
Right.
That's not a realistic thing. That's what you got to understand for us that are on the side of the 2A and the Second Amendment guys. That we do not trust the government in any realm.
Right.
And I mean, how do you?
Right. Well, and if you're still not understanding why we don't trust the government, or why people on our side of this don't trust the government. And again, guys, I don't necessarily consider myself a Republican, but I certainly have more conservative values and views, and there's a difference there.
Sure.
But people on this side, the reason we don't trust the government, look what happened the past 2 years. Look at what happened in Australia when they take all the guns. There's no mass shootings in Australia.
Canada.
And Canada, yeah. Well, guess what? They were just controlled and or are being still controlled by a tyrannical government. I mean, literally, those people don't have rights.
Yep.
And also, just because you take guns away, it's not like violence just stops.
Oh my gosh.
Instead of getting shot, you'll get stabbed. Pretty sure being stabbed is going to be worse than getting shot.
Yeah, you're just going to be gutted, bleeding everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you really want to deal with, I guess. At least you take a bullet to the head.
Yeah, right.
But anyways, guys, the entire point of the matter is the tyrannical government aspect, because the Second Amendment allows us the freedom of the other amendments in the Constitution.
Right.
That is just the truth of the matter. I mean, look, we're not some crazy gun crazed dudes or something like that.
Right.
I love firearms. Don't get me wrong, because I love learning how to respect the weapon
Exactly.
and really learning how to shoot that thing right.
Right.
And that's the thing is whenever I get a new firearm, I don't get it until I don't shoot it until I really can actually do my own research and then understand it, and then also talk to people that do know how to use this firearm as well.
Sure.
That's a big factor. And so you can't realistically believe us I ask pretty much everybody, do you trust the government? And they're like, no. And it's like, that's the Second Amendment right there. That's the end of the argument. Do you trust the government? No? Okay. There's the Second Amendment.
Right.
And I guarantee you, like 85 to 90% of the population does not trust the government.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
And the thing is, those that are on, the super far progressive left side, even they don't trust the government. You know what I mean? They don't trust the government because of the Roe v. Wade stuff and all this other stuff on their side that they get kind of emotionally attached to. But that's their views. But they don't trust the government, and then they go ahead and then turn around and say, like, we need to get rid of guns. They don't understand that's what even holds the government back from putting them as their slaves, pretty much, too.
Exactly.
The entire idea is because we just got out, the entire context of the Second Amendment is because we just got away from a tyrannical government in Great Britain for us. That is the entire thing it's based off of. That is the entire thing it's been based off of. And a disarmed population is a controlled population.
Exactly. And I think it's funny, too, when people, when the Constitution was written, that was 200 years ago. So it doesn't, it's not relevant today. Are you serious? Like think about, okay, yeah, those guys were not, in the same clothing and didn't have the same type of weapons that we have now and the same technology. Okay, yeah, you're 100% right. It was 200 years ago. But listen to that text. I mean, we just read the Second Amendment there. And a well-regulated militia, a.k.a. citizens, okay, being necessary to the security of a free state, defending your freedoms and your rights. That's what that means.
A free state means a free country.
Exactly. The right of the people to keep and bear arms. I have access to buying firearms. That's what that means. Shall not be infringed, a.k.a. cannot be taken away.
Yep.
Cannot, not shouldn't be, cannot be taken away. That's what the Second Amendment means in layman's terms. So we just broke it down real quick, like we're talking to a 5-year-old.
I mean, yeah.
Literally.
That's what it was meant to be, though. It's just because there were some fancy government dudes or whatever that decided,
right.
They decided to write it like that.
It's just very hard for people to understand, I guess. Which, like,
that was their language back then, too.
Yeah,
that was literally their language back then.
Absolutely. There are times where I have to look up definitions of certain words to just fully understand that language.
Sure.
But I feel like that one's pretty simple. I mean, honestly, it's pretty simple. So
that's what I've got on the issue.
Yeah.
And that was.
Yeah,
it's not really a complex one for me. That's
I don't think so either.
It really and again, I don't get emotional. I talk to people about it.
Right.
I'm like, look here, and I just feed them what we just said right there.
That and just it does. It all comes down to, do you trust the government?
Do you trust the government?
Like that.
That's the one question you need right there.
Right. And more often than not, you're going to say no. So
I mean, I hope so, but yeah.
It's just it's a very hot topic, but it really doesn't need to be as hot as what it is.
No. Because
you're exactly right. It's a very simple concept to understand. And I think most of the people that are very anti-gun also think that guns kill people. And I could set my 9mm here on the table while we record this whole episode, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to kill anybody. Now, if I pick it up and pull the trigger, that's going to kill someone. I killed the person. If I kill someone with a butter knife, do butter knives now just kill people? No, they don't. I killed that person.
Right. And drunk driving incidents.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, it's the car. No, it's the person.
Oh, so my Ford kills people now.
Yeah, it's not really. And the thing is too is that it's a hot topic, and it being a hot topic, the media wants it that way. So we just are lost when we discuss it. It's just we yell at each other.
Right.
It's like, sit down and listen to me. And I'll listen to you.
Right.
Because I get it. You see these horrific school shootings on the news. It looks horrible. Let's have a discussion about it.
Right.
Because we have to. If we actually want to solve things and bring up solutions and have nuance-based conversations, it has to be breathe. Right. I get it. It's scary. It's scary stuff. But we need to sit there and hold on.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this.
Exactly.
We'll handle it.
Yeah.
So.
No, 100%. Guys, that's kind of our overview of the Second Amendment. We are very passionate about keeping this country what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's not even the Trump slogan of "Make America Great Again." No, we just need to make it great.
Yeah. Because
we haven't lived up to our potential as a country. Even when it was flourishing before we were really, adults or even alive, even then it wasn't living up to the potential of what this country can be, what these people can be, what we can all be together. And that's what we want, guys. That's what this all comes down to. Again, we're not crazy gun dudes and just, I'm going to get a gun just so I can shoot it, blah, blah, blah. No. Like, I want it to protect me, my family, and my loved ones. Like, that's what it comes down to, you know? So that's kind of our overview of the Second Amendment.
Yep.
With any questions or comments about that, guys, or, you know, you want us to see a point from another side, guys, bring it to us. Seriously, we're not kidding about having conversations with this. Just the other night, we had a conversation with a couple of our buddies about just not necessarily hot topics, but just about topics that we sort of had different views on.
Yeah, and we're passionate about it.
And we were passionate, but it wasn't an argument.
But it was logical.
And guess what? I'll go tell those guys I love them, just like I would have before that.
Yep.
Like, no big deal.
Yep.
So, Gabel, I believe you have a submitted Q&A question. Is that right?
I do.
All right, hell yeah.
I do.
Let's hear it, man.
So, my question for you, Wurtz, is when you walk up on a person, primarily a girl in this case for the most part,
Okay.
obviously like in your case, like Peyton,
Sure.
what is the first thing you notice on them? Or what's the first thing you notice on her?
Like a physical trait?
Sure, yeah.
Well, and this, honestly, for me personally, this applies to pretty much anyone, new person I meet. I notice their eyes and their smile.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Those are the two biggest things that I notice. And I think it's funny because anytime, well, what do you see? What's the first thing you look at on a girl? And people automatically just like sexualize that question.
Sure, sure.
And it's like, I don't know. Legitimately, the first thing I notice when I'm actually meeting this person is their smile, their eyes, and just how they talk to me. You know, are they looking me in the eye? Are they looking down? Are they fiddling and all this stuff? You know, like, can they hold a conversation meeting a new person? So that's kind of what I see is the eyes and the mouth. That's what I'm paying attention to. Yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
If it comes to just any person, I would 100% agree. Like a solid smile, or just like, yeah, it just a soft smile like that is always appreciated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it makes you feel very comfortable around somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
And it makes you feel like you can instantly have a conversation.
Yeah,
100%.
especially like active listening off the rip. Like, boom, I can definitely do
if
this.
I'm actually going actively to talk to, you know, a girl in this case or whatever, that's huge. Like a soft face. Does that make sense? Like not like a all frowny and that type of stuff. Because naturally, I mean, having, you know, a soft face, like a good smile and whatnot, being able to talk to a girl like that, it makes conversations, you know, about dating, whatever, anything, so much smoother because you feel so much more comfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
And that goes for any person, I would 100% say too. But it's like, yeah, and especially with the case of like a dude meeting them, I think a good handshake is huge for me.
Dude, I was literally about to say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That you can tell a lot about a person and especially their confidence in the way they shake a hand.
Definitely.
Like 100%.
Definitely. It's, I don't know, something about it is just so, how do I put this, like deal sealing in a way with a person.
Yeah, like a business meeting, business deal.
Basically, it's like, man, I respect this dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think those are good ones there that we just said. So, anyway, guys, that is episode 26 for you. With any questions, comments, differing opinions, or anything like that regarding the Second Amendment, or maybe what you see first in a person too, let us know. Reach out through DMs on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. Guys, we are also now on Amazon Music as well. The podcast is. Google Podcast should be up in the next few days. It's just like processing or something like that.
Sure.
And still working on Apple Podcasts because I know we have a lot of people that want us to be on Apple Podcasts because I know it's a really popular place that people listen to podcasts as well. So anything we can do to make the listening and viewing experience better for you guys, we want to. So please bring anything to us through the DMs or whatever, or in person, you know?
Yeah.
So until next time, guys, that's episode 26. We'll see you soon. Peace and love.
Take care, folks.